hands on my shoulders, vision clearing, yeah. Vision clearing, yeah. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo. In the valley, yeah. Chasing thoughts I can't recall. Quest to find just what I need. All I have is on my shoulders. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo.
My life would be so shitty without you. Wow. Sweet.
Moving slowly, yeah. A dreary world when I'm all alone. You're my one and only, babe. All I have's on my shoulders. Vision clearing, yeah. Vision clearing, yeah. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. I've been trying to follow you.
Am I wrong for trying to take notice? Is it wrong that I paid a month? Is it wrong that I got the motive? It's
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. Today we have a very special guest coming all the way from are you from Florida? You just went to school there. Okay, from
Orlando,
Florida. Cool. And we'll let him introduce himself, and I'll let you take it away.
Hey, appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, sir.
My name's Stephon Moise. I just graduated from University of Central Florida from doctorate of physical therapy program. So I'm currently in the process of actually going into an orthopedic physical therapy residency program with Advent Health. So I'm kind of just waiting for that to start. I just finished with my Npte, so about to get licensed soon. And yeah, just waiting.
Nice. So with the Npte, you're already done. You're done all of that and everything. You just have to pretty much, I guess, what are you waiting on for in terms of that?
So I already have an official start date, August 30th. They're just waiting for like onboarding things, human resources, things like that.
Gotcha. And it's funny. I applied to the Advent Health University because I grew up with the religion called Seventh-day Adventist, so I'm familiar.
Okay.
But man, that school's kind of tough to get into. I think I've gotten denied twice already, but it's all good though. So so you said you grew up in Orlando?
I did, yeah. I actually moved to Orlando when I was about 6 years old from New York.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty much here all my life.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And what part of New York?
A little bit upstate. So if you know where Nyack is,
Rochester. I'm familiar with
Rochester. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like White Plains area.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Cool. So, how was your experience? And also, did you tell the people your age as well?
Oh yeah,
man, that's
I'm
crazy.
24 years
Because I'm
old.
like, this guy looks kind of young.
Yeah.
So he's a 24-year-old. We call him Dr. Moise, and at 24 years old, you've already pretty much accomplished something that some people are starting at 24. So I'll say definitely congratulations to that. Because when I started PT school, I was 25. And now I'm 28. So that's really impressive. What made you want to get into this career field, just in general? We'll start off with that.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things. I guess like a lot of other people, I kind of come from that medical background. Like my dad's a nurse, my mom's a nursing assistant. So kind of all along, my mom was influencing me in a way to be in the medical profession. But I was never really that predisposed to be in medicine in the first place. I was always into sports. I grew up playing soccer, so that was my passion. Like anything I had to do with soccer, like I was all about it. But eventually I found athletic training, and I ended up doing an athletic program in high school. Influenced me to go into athletic training. I actually was seeing the physical therapist on the soccer field. When I would watch the soccer games, I would see them go on the field. And I was like, man, that would be something I could do. Like I could still be kind of attached to the sport that I love, but then it would be an actual profession and I could be able to help people. And the more I looked into athletic training, I kind of figured out that it wasn't really what I wanted. Like what I wanted more was the rehab side. Because when I started looking at rehab, it was like, oh man, this is a lot more interesting. Like there's an actual like problem solving process here. There's an interaction that goes on for a longer period of time. And the more I looked into that, that's when I found physical therapy. And I was like, man, that's what.
And that's actually something that's interesting because there have been a lot of people on here that a couple people that have started off wanting to do athletic training, but then they ended up kind of going to the physical therapy realm. What is the real difference for the viewers out there? How do you differentiate between athletic training and physical therapy?
Yeah, that's it too. And I don't do any of my athletic training friends any disservice. So I'm gonna do the best I can. But from my understanding, an athlete is primarily responsible for taking care of athletes. So any kind of problem that an athlete has, whether it be concussion or an injury that they sustain on the field, they're the ones that are taking care of them at the moment of the injury, and then sometimes after, helping them to recover from that. But then the physical therapist can treat pretty much the population. They can treat athletes as well. Well, the difference is that you're treating, so you're not just going to see athletes, you're going to see older adults, you're going to see younger adults, you're going to see kids, you're going to see people with different kinds of conditions because you're treating in different settings. Sorry. So I think that's the main difference. You know, you come in with the same kind of approach, helping people to recover physically, but I think the population that you're treating tends to be a lot different.
Gotcha.
And things that you work in.
Gotcha. And what's the schooling difference between the two?
Yeah, so from my understanding, you can become an athletic trainer with just a bachelor's degree, so 4 years in college, whereas physical therapy is a 3-year graduate program, so you would have to get your bachelor's degree and then go into physical
Gotcha.
therapy afterwards.
So it's basically a bachelor's versus a master's program. Okay.
Yeah,
So you're pretty young, man. Tell us the timeline. Kind of explain to us the timeline from. Did you do like a 3-3 program, or how did you make it to become, a doctor so fast? I'm trying to do the math.
Yeah. So I was actually a little bit young for my age, because I think when I transferred, the way that I was a little bit younger than the rest of my class, about a year younger than most people in my class. So when I graduated high school, I was actually 17, 18, and then college, and I ended up having some credits from high school that transferred over to college. So I was able to finish college a little bit faster. I only did 3 years for my undergrad.
Oh.
So I ended up finishing when I was 20.
Sheesh.
Yeah. And then that was the time I was applying to PT school, and I ended up starting PT school when I was 21. So yeah, it's kind of a 3-3 thing, but
Right. So
inadvertently.
you took a lot of, like, you want to say advanced classes to get those college credits in high school. So you were already coming in with some credits. Nice,
Yeah.
man. Nice. And is this something that your parents kind of pushed you to do, physical therapy, or is it something that, I mean, I know you said you were interested in athletic training, but, outside of them being, the nurse and being in the field, right? Because I know some people, like my mom is a doctor, for example. So some parents are very adamant about their child doing one thing and doing, having the title doctor or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's the gravitas or whatever comes with it. But were your parents like that, or were they kind of just you were silently influenced by them?
Yeah, I would say it was more violent influence. Okay. But I would say that whenever the conversation would come up, like, what do you want to do as far as like when you get older, what's your profession? I would always say sports medicine. And my mom would be like, yeah, that's something I could see. You knew I came from, the soccer background. I was super into sports. And I think she low-key wanted me to be in medicine, but she never outright said it. She was just like, that's something I could see you doing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like orthopedics or something like that?
Yeah, it was always like, I said sports medicine at the time because I didn't really know whether it was going to really physical therapy or athletic training or what have you. But yeah, it ended up being physical therapy.
Okay. And would you say that you are happy with the decision overall, or is it everything that it boiled up to be, when you were going through the process, is it everything that you thought it would potentially be, or did you, get a little bit of a wake-up call once you graduated?
It's difficult to say because I haven't officially started.
Well, that's true. You haven't started yet. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, I guess nothing could really prepare you for the schooling process. Like, that was something I wasn't really aware of going in. Like, you have an idea. Yeah. You look at the syllabus and people tell you that it's going to be like this when you go to your pre-PT meeting, like that. But you don't.
Yeah. And I was just about to ask you about that. How was that transition from undergrad to graduate program and doctorate on top of that. And what was your major for undergrad again?
I was health
You were
sciences.
health science. So yeah, that transition from going from health science to the DPT, how was that? What would you say your the hardest part of that outside of the workload? You know, that's kind of
hmm
obvious. What would you say the hardest part of that transition was for you?
Man, I'm gonna say the hardest part for me was
Hmm.
kind of getting out of my shell. Like I had kind of went through undergrad, like pretty much my whole academic career was like a solo act. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really have to.
Mm.
I didn't have to
Study with people.
collaborate. Yeah, I didn't have to collaborate with people. I didn't have to do like a lot of presentations and things like that. So when it comes to PT school and you're surrounded by, 40, 50, maybe even
Hmm.
more kids, and all of a sudden it becomes that dynamic where you're looking at your class for information and you gotta be a little bit more vocal at times.
Yep.
That was hard for me.
Yep.
I'm more of an introverted person, so going into that environment was kind of like a shock to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually something that's interesting to me because there are so many aspects of PT school and getting in and progressing, and I can say this with confidence because I'm on my third one. There's so many aspects that are indirectly involved with physical therapy that can either determine you being a success or not. You know what I'm saying? So one of those things, I'm just like you in a sense. I was a biology major and I pretty much did the solo thing. But when I got to PT school, you know, I was at Hampton University for my first school, and I'm gonna be honest. I kind of finessed the system. I made it through, but the only reason I kind of made it through is because I was able to lean so much on the second years. You know, the second
Okay.
years, I was a little bit older. Like my class was young. I mean, we had a girl in there that was like 20, 21. You know what I'm saying? So kind of like your
Oh,
your
wow.
your case. So I was the oldest guy at 25. You know, the oldest girl was 27. You know, so our class was pretty young, and I felt like I just gelled a little bit better with the second years. So what I did a lot of times was I just kind of used them and their information or whatever, and then they just really helped me out. I would use them for practicing for practicals and stuff like that. So that's the only reason I was able to do it kind of solo, But that second semester, I got a wake up call. It's like, wow. So you being an introvert, because I would consider myself naturally in my natural state. Because sometimes when people hear me talking, I'm like, oh, you're no, I'm an introvert because I get my energy from being by myself. However,
hmm
I realize the importance of networking, being, let's talk a little bit about that because I'm sure there's going to be someone who can resonate with that. Um, how important would you say it is to get out of your shell? And do you think that's the difference between passing or not passing?
That's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the difference between because at the end of the day, it comes down to grades. So,
Mm-hmm.
you can get by on a practical, you can get by um, studying for exams and passing tests, but just pretty much doing it on your own, you can get by. But I think it makes the experience a lot better in the sense that you grow as a person when you start interacting with other people because they come from different backgrounds. Like we had a lot of people in my class, at least, that came from different jobs. They didn't always have physical therapy
Mm-hmm.
in mind, or there were like application processes. Maybe they went to a different school beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of them are older, some of them have children. So that kind of thing just opens your eyes to, I guess, different perspectives that you can take with you, and that's going to help you in the future with your practice or whatever you decide to do with physical therapy.
Right.
So
Yeah, I totally agree. Ours wasn't as spread out like that. The way that they set up the GRE and your latest biology class, the schools I went to, particularly St. Augustine, that was my second school, it kind of phased people out. Because if your biology was over 10 years old, really, if you graduate at 22, and and you took biology your first semester, like me at 18, 28's your max. You know, after that, 27 really is your max. After that, you kind of get phased out unless you retake all the classes. So that's something I noticed about certain PT schools. They kind of indirectly, it's kind of like it does phase out some people because of those core classes. Because think about it, have to go back and take biology, chemistry, you know, all these basic sciences again. Well, not basic, but foundational level sciences, entry level sciences. That's tough, and some people, you know, they don't want to go through all that, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, if that's something you really want to do, you're going to make it work. So, how did you study for your Npte? How was that?
Yeah, so that was interesting for me. Our class used Dr. Scott Giles. He had Giles. I forget the name of his program right now. I think it's Score Builders. Yeah, Score Builders.
Okay.
So they have this program called ACE, which basically through the different sections that are going to be on the NPTs. So cardiopulm, neurology, your basic systems, right? And they have something cool that's called, what's the name of it? The name escapes me right now, but it basically puts you through the basic concepts, the main concepts that you need to know for every section. Check them off as you go through in your study session. And I kind of use that to start, like as a starting point to see like what sections am I weak in, what sections don't I know as much in. And I don't know if this is like this for your school, but for my school, we had to take the PTE, which is a retired Npte, before we graduated. So we ended up taking that in April. And for me, that was also a way to study because once you take the PTE, you can down the section. So it'll tell you what your overall score was for cardiopulm, neuro, etc. What your score was for examination, for intervention. So I was able to focus on the areas that I was weakest in, which for me was like cardiopulm and other systems. So like genital urinary and integumentary, like not your basic ones that you would think of when you think of physical therapy. So then with more specificity, I ended up going with Quizlet. So Quizlet has actually a lot of practice questions as well. So one of the best ways that I learned is by taking practice questions, because then it further exposes what I don't know and what I do know. And it also gives me an opportunity to kind of reflect on why I might have missed a question, whether that be purely academic or maybe I made the wrong decision. So it was a lot of practice questions, and also just reviewing the academic material, you know, whether it was the textbook or notes that I had.
Gotcha. So let's shift gears a little bit. Tell us about the kind of outside of, you know, you being introverted and, you know, kind of more laid back to yourself. What kind of student were you in undergrad? You know, what were you the guy that was super studious, making the A's, and you know you were coming in? And if you were, that's cool, you know. Or were you the person that maybe struggled a little bit more? How would you describe yourself in undergrad? What kind of student were you?
So it's funny. I'm pretty laid back when it comes to academics. Like I remember it was like one of my first semesters in undergrad. My roommate actually at the time, I remember he was stressing out, and we were both stressing out actually because we were taking the same class. And I remember him writing like all these dates down and like all these assignments down. And I was like, man, like that's something I never did. Like I was never the type to use an agenda or anything like that until I saw him doing it. And yeah, that was when like I started to organize myself a little bit more, because I'm someone who like I'll keep things like in my head, kind of like I know generally like when I need to do something, and by the time it comes up, like it'll get done. Yeah, so I'm pretty laid laid back in terms of like my approach, but I would say
Okay.
that I did pretty well in my
Okay, so you
classes.
weren't like the struggle story or nothing like can't pull no crazy.
Uh,
That's cool, man. That's cool. And that's not everybody's story. You know, there's some people who, you know, they get through it like that, and then there's other people who it's a little bit more difficult. So, you know, that is what it is. Let's shift a little bit and talk about some of the things that we've talked about off air with your wise. I think it's fit.
yeah,
What
Wise
inspired
Fitness,
you to
yeah.
start that one, and then, you know, tell us a little bit about that in general.
Yeah, so I have a good friend, Kendrick, and I've known him for a long time since high school. He's someone who super into fitness. He was an athlete like me growing up. And I remember he actually started his own fitness Instagram page a while back. It might have been like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And that was around the time that I was starting to get into PT school. And we had talked about it because he was making videos. We have a mutual friend who makes videos, and he was making videos, you know, just basic workout exercise videos. And I was thinking to myself, like, you know, I'm going through this program in physical therapy, and there's a lot that I could do with this, you know, further than just making an exercise video, but more so like on the educational side, just being in a classroom and listening to these lectures and hearing like all these crazy concepts. I'm like, man, this is a lot of good information
Right.
that people can use, because I think a lot of the times when people get the advice to exercise, it's like, you know, just exercise, like, just, you know, just do it, just go to the gym more. And it's not really like those foundational principles of education behind, you know, what types of exercises should you actually be doing, you know, what's going to be the most beneficial toward your goals, type of thing. So he kind of inspired me in that way to really put my knowledge to use. And because he was also saying, like, you know, this is something that I could see you doing. And I didn't really see it at the time because, like I told you, like, I'm someone who's more
Right.
so introverted, and I don't really put myself out there like that. But the more I saw him doing it, it inspired me. And some of the first videos I made was
Yeah,
actually with him
I
in
saw
there.
that.
So yeah. So we kind of like figured it out together, and that was the
Cool,
start of
cool.
it.
And what is your overall goal with it? You know, do you want to kind of eventually take it into maybe some online stuff, or is that something that's just a passion project of yours, or, you know, what is the 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 aim for it outside of course, disseminating the information that you know? Is it something that you want to scale?
Definitely, yeah, definitely something I want to scale in the future. I'm not sure
Mm,
how exactly yet. Um, I have multiple ideas. Like, um, I've seen people do specific courses. Like, there's a guy on Instagram who does like desktop therapy. Like, he'll develop a course for people who
mm,
sit at the desk all day and they have neck pain, type of thing. So I thought about that. I've thought about doing kind of
mm-hmm.
consulting, like making specific programs for specific populations. Um, so I'm still kind of working through that. But I think what I really want to do, overarching goal, is make sure that people understand the main principles behind why they should be working out and the type of workouts or activities that they do
Right.
every day. Because one of the main things that we always say that we want to do as physical therapists is educate the public and prevent all these chronic diseases
Mm-hmm.
with movement, right? But I think behind that, there needs to be a kind of comprehensive effort to really educate people, because it's a long-term thing. You know, your health is your wealth. You know, it's like it's everything. You know, if you don't have that, then you don't have anything. So, um, yeah, just really trying to spread that message the best I
Gotcha.
can.
And let people know. And I'm just, man, because you're the youngest physical therapist, and I think you're the first male physical therapist I've had on there. Because, you know, our career field is dominated by mostly women. So Stephon, tell us how you feel. You're 24. You got the world in front of you. You can call yourself doctor. You know what I'm saying? You're done. uh, I would say one of the harder parts. You know, you finish school, you pass your boards. How do you feel, man? And how does life look for you in the next 7 years?
I feel really good, man. Like, it's a really awesome feeling to look at myself when I first
Hmm.
started, like everything, and then look at myself now. Like, I think
Yeah.
I grew a lot. So, um, yeah, it's really cool to look at that kind of growth. And yeah, there's a lot of things I still don't know, but I think I'm more comfortable with that than I was,
Okay.
say, like 2 years ago. So I'm more so looking forward to it versus kind of like having that anxiety of like, how is it going to go? Like, those kind of feelings that you have, like, say,
Yeah.
before your first clinical,
Yeah.
like when you don't know how things are going to go. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And yeah, man, it's a really good feeling because it was a lot of work, as you know,
Yeah.
going into it. And yeah, just
Yeah, man.
getting it
That's
all
good.
done.
So let's just I'll give you this last point before you wrap it up. I just usually ask people I'll give you two. I'll give you a twofold question. All right, this is gonna be a little different, but it's gonna be in the realm. I want you to name one of your biggest L's, and you can take L's that could be a loss or a lesson, right? And then what characteristic was best suited to deal with that loss, right? So let's say for me, I'm going to my third PT school. I would say there was a lot of L's lessons and multiple, but one of the lessons I learned was my dad would tell me this: all distractions are equal, right? So it could be something non-school related, it could be school related, it could be, but everything is connected together and they're all equal. And if certain things, if you let them get out of place, they'll throw you off. So it threw me off, and now I'm on my path back. But I would say the characteristic that helped me, if you want to say cope with that L, would definitely be a sense of determination, if you want to say stubbornness. Because for me, there were people, I think, when I left, because of my undergrad experience, I had a lot of family that supported me, but I think there were some people outside that were like, I don't know if this is something that you could do. So what would you say one of your biggest L's are, right? And then what attribute or characteristic was something that helped you deal with that?
Mm, it's a good question, man. Um, well, there's one specifically in PT school, actually. Um, it was a patient care
Mm,
skills exam. It was one of those classes where we were mainly focused on
okay.
acute care skills, so transfers, things like that. Um, ended up having a spinal cord patient, and I needed to slide board transfer him from
Hmm.
the bed to the wheelchair. And if I recall correctly, I didn't
Hmm.
lock the wheelchair before completing the transfer, and I ended up failing that practical for
Oof.
obvious reasons. And that was like my first big L of PT school. And yeah, I remember being pretty much like torn because you know um, it was also one of those things that really never like you asked me earlier about my academic career, like did I have a lot of struggles? Like
Right.
I didn't really have that many, so
Mm.
it was kind of like a hit to my ego also.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that hit me pretty hard, but I say that something that helped me deal with that is I'm pretty introspective,
Mm.
pretty reflective person. So I was able to look back at that experience and kind of take accountability and understand that I didn't prepare properly. Like
Mm.
there were mistakes that I made that could have been prevented, just looking back. And that's something that I try to carry with me, every time I do come across an L, um, that needs to be a lesson, um, and not just in a cliche way, but in the way that you can look back and kind of look at what were the steps leading up to that L and how could you have maybe prepared yourself differently or carried yourself differently like in that moment. So yeah, that was a big moment for me.
Cool. So it sounds like we got a little bit of reverse engineering going on, if you want to say. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Yeah, that's something I have to, and I've started to do a lot more in my daily life. So sounds good. All right, man. Well, what we'll do is let you give any closing thoughts to the audience, and then also, I have all of this stuff in the description, but you can go ahead and shout out, your page again, and just let the people know where to find you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, man, for having me
Yes,
on
sir.
here. I think it's great what you're doing. We need to open up that conversation more with physical therapists, not just physical therapists of color, but physical therapists in different fields. You talk a lot about entrepreneurship, and I know that's something you're interested in. And this is a start. This is everything that we talk about, and you're doing it. So big props to you for that.
Appreciate that.
Also, yeah, if you guys want to check out my Instagram page, it's Wise Fitness PT. On there, I'm posting educational content, videos, things that you can take with you and maybe even apply to your clinical practice if you have any patients who have pain or any other condition. And yeah, man, really happy to have this interview with you, man.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome.
For sure. Good to have you on. All right, guys. And that is DPT Talk, episode, I believe, number 10 with Dr. Stephon Moise. We are signing out. Thank you guys for joining us in this live stream, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.